So we'll record for this class for those that didn't make it today, snow or sicknesses. Server 1, let's go ahead and connect into server 1. We left off with Monday. We finished setting up server 3. We joined it to the Active Directory domain. We did not make it a domain controller. We added it to server manager. When we right-clicked on it and told it to launch PowerShell from server 3. So that got us a connection right here to server3.cadosa.com. Anything we type here is actually being run on server 3. We looked at, we can't run some of these tools because the firewall is blocking the tools. So a couple of things we can run. We ran the get net firewall rule. You may still have it open and you can use your up arrow key on your PowerShell to see what you've typed in the past. We did the get net firewall rule. It gave us too much information on the screen, so we piped it to a select statement. Makes quite a bit of sense for well, we haven't selected specific columns yet in database class, but we will flow into select column, comma, another column. This really links with the last class pretty good, because we created a manufacturer and a vehicle, and maybe only want to see the manufacturer name and not the other stuff, the address, phone number, website. So you can just select name from the manufacturer table and only view that column. That's what we did here. Select display group, and is it enabled? Do we enable connections or do we not enable connections? So that gave us a good list. We'd notice that Windows Management Instrumentation, that's a set of protocols. It's not PowerShell really, but there are some PowerShell commands to pull information from WMI. It's basically the hook into the registry, being able to view stuff out of the registries. So you can get a lot of information, all the information, because everything's configured in a Windows registry, including all the hardware settings and BIOS versions and driver versions of all the components and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff you can do at WMI. It's false right now, turned off. So let's check out a command that a lot of IT people do. They run it on machines. It's normally called staging. You've ordered machines and you've got a room full of boxes that were shipped from Dell, HP, something like that. And you've got box cutters and you open it up, you've got this bench with network cables and monitors, and you're plugging and turning the machines on, naming them, joining them to the domain, installing your company apps, and you're probably getting them ready, configuring the firewall. Firewall would be pushed by group policy, but you would probably be making sure that the remote management stuff is turned on. The WinRM quick config so it says it's already up and running on this system, probably because it's just server. But WinRM QC for quick config, that normally opens the firewall and stuff, and this runs the whole process. But
can somebody refresh my memory on how you connect it to Cadosa? I'm on server 1. I've got PowerShell open. I'm running it. You're supposed to connect to.
Try to put server 3.
Right.
that's you can sign out.
You shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, your server 3 should be configured, but everything we'll be doing from server 1 mostly from now on.
Yeah, I'm on server 1.
So do you have it, did you go to manage and add servers and add it into your all servers list?
Yeah, he's just not signed in
Yeah.
to the right user.
Yeah,
On server 1?
The server 3.
Let me look.
like I'm on server 1,
Yeah,
but I'm not signed into server 3.
He's just gotta sign out and sign back in as administrator at Contoso.
I'll just close that out right there. You just right click on server 3 and click on PowerShell. Windows PowerShell.
Oh.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So the WinRM QC, it's short for quick config. You normally have to run that on Windows 10 and 11 and stuff to make sure that it's enabled and started. That is what they do here on campus. They go install new PCs and stuff. It's one of the requirements after naming the computer and joining it to the domain is to run that command. Yes. What? Well, I'm logged into server 1 and I've launched PowerShell. I've right clicked server 3 and launched PowerShell. So the PowerShell is connected to server 3. So yeah, like I said, you don't go to servers anymore. You do everything from one spot and just connect to the other machines. Well, since WinRM was already enabled and started and the firewall rules are set to disable Windows management instrumentation, that one, and basically anything that starts with the word remote needs to be opened up. As I scroll through here, it looks like everything with the remote is kind of opened up. I guess we can start with the remote event viewer monitor. So what do I want to do? Let's do this. Go ahead and type out your get-net firewall rule. Type select. The dash object section is optional. There is an alias for that, for just select. And display group, enabled. You likely, if you still had this open from Monday, you could just use the up arrow key. And I'm going to redirect this, if you remember redirectors in Linux class, to a rules.txt file. Darn it. That's on server 3. But I'm administrator. But the firewall is blocking me. Ah.
Okay, I'm not there. I exited out of I'm no longer logged into server 3.
Well,
Window and just
did you type exit at any point in time? Yeah.
Yes.
And then you have to close it and relaunch.
How do I exit out of all of this? Like,
You don't, just leave it there, or CD backslash.
well, you could change the operating.
CD space backslash would also work.
CD space what?
Backslash. So,
CD
yep, space and then a backslash.
backslash.
and hit enter. There you go. All right, so what do I want to do first? I want to be able to open up that text file, so darn it. I forgot everything I'm typing is being done on server 3, and I thought I could just go to my C drive and open that file and be able to copy and paste the names out of it. But that's on server 3 and I'm on server 1, so I can't just use File Explorer for that. We'll look at enabling file and printer sharing. That way we can do some stuff. File and printer sharing is the name. Okay. So let's look. Let's do set net firewall rule. I guess it's best to type all the way out to set firewall R and then use tab key to autocomplete the word rule. That way you know you typed it correctly. We'll set net firewall rule. We'll do display. Thank you. Group. I tab completed that too. I got out to display G and hit tab to autocomplete it. And then inside of single quotes, we'll do file, and I'm just going to put an asterisk there because I'm tired of typing. I got bored really quick. And then I'll do enabled and tab complete that switch dash enabled. True. Did that fix my problem? Yep. That fixed my problem. So I'll let y'all get that command typed out. So we just opened the firewall for all the file and printer sharing stuff. May not be a good thing, but this will be a file server, so we do need that enabled. But it is good. Microsoft firewalls everything off, and you have to open up if you want to use a particular service.
Is that by default?
Yes, it is now. If we did configure the share on it, it would have automatically scripted and opened the rule to allow people to connect. What? So which part in the File Explorer window?
Yeah.
So on the File Explorer window, here's a neat little trick. If you have administrative rights to a computer and you're logged into that account, you can use the universal naming convention, the whack server name, computer name or whatever, in this case, it's server 3, followed by another whack. And you can put the drive letter that you want to view, followed by a $sign. There's a hidden share. All the drive letters are automatically administratively shared and hidden. So you have to manually type it out because just viewing server 3 will show that there's nothing shared on the computer. But if you know Microsoft, what they hide, only let administrators that know what they're doing get to, you can type that out. So when I did my get net firewall rule and I did the redirector to rules.txt, it dumped it to the C drive or whatever folder I was at. That's what I was trying to get to. So I could double click rules.txt and I could more easily see what's going on here. just a administrator shortcut technique, make jobs easier. Redirect stuff into Notepad file, and then as I come down through here, I can look and see that, like this remote event monitor, I want to be able to remotely monitor server 3. So I'd want to open up the port for a remote event monitor. So what I can do, I can copy that out of the notepad, and I can just right click while my cursor is in between the two. Doesn't matter where I put my mouse, is if I just right click in the window. As long as my cursor is blinking between the two single quotation marks, it'll paste it. So now I don't have to worry about misspelling something, because I'm a bad speller and typos, right? I can hit enter, and that will open the firewall port for remote event monitor. I can scroll through and look at the list easier now, and maybe I want to remotely shut down the system. So I can copy that, do the same thing, use the up arrow key, backspace the text that's in between the single quotes, and right click again, make sure it pasted in between the single quotes. Makes things faster. There's a better way once we learn group policy that we would just go to the, we'd only use this one rule here to open up the remote firewall management tool, connect the remote firewall, copy all the current configs down, import them into the group policy, and then go to group policy and double click what we want to enable. It's a little easier. Because you wouldn't want to type this on every single server you have. In most departments, networks, you're going to have hundreds of thousands of tens of thousands of devices. So you would want to copy the firewall policies, put them in a tool that can push them out to all the machines.
Can server manager do that?
Well, it can launch the group policy tool. And it can also launch the Windows Defender Firewall with Advanced Security tool. Like I said, you'd have to get one server and you'd have to open up the port so this tool could connect to that service, export all of the rules, and then take that file and import that file into group policy. And it'll be a graphical screen that you could then configure. You could then configure all of the stuff. And then it would push out to whoever you said to push out to. And we will do that at some point in time. Remote schedule task management. Definitely want to enable that. We will do some scheduled task. Uh-oh, forgot to copy it. Apparently. I pasted it, so copied. For lab purposes, we could have just put an asterisk there and say, open everything up, but we're playing with PowerShell and having fun. And that's not something you would do in production. You wouldn't just say, dump the firewall. Remote event log management, something else I might also do in here besides just adding these two switches is I might potentially add another switch for profile and specify domain so that only the subnets that are used in the Active Directory domain for Contosa.com is opened up. If it's on public or private, that would still be firewalled off. So I could selectively choose the network range that I want by using the domain profile. If you've ever connected a computer to a new network, it might ask, are you public or private? Are you at home? And selecting that is sort of what this is. So if you're joined to a domain network, you've got domain. If you're standalone, you've either got public or private. But domain has all three, so that specify only computers that's part of Contoso.com can access that service. A little bit better security. Remote service management. So that's where you can see the individual services that you can start and stop on a Windows machine. So computer 7, Lachlan, you put remote instead of remote. Too many O's. There you go. So you've learned a couple of tricks today. You've learned that we can change the firewall rules with a PowerShell command manually. The only thing I ever really do is this one right here, Windows Defender Firewall Remote. I normally open that up by the command prompt. That's the only one I do. And then I do everything else with graphical tools. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the Windows Defender Firewall Remote Management. That's the main one that you would want to have open. Like I said, if I'm setting anything up production, that's the only thing I'll open up. Then I copy the current rules, put them in group policy and say, apply this to all the machines. And about 3 hours later, all the machines have the right firewall rules. I don't have to go touch them. If I use my up arrow key enough, I can get back up to where I'm getting the rules again. And I can see now that, all right, here, Windows Defenders set to true. The remote management services went to true. What I forgot to do is the last one right here. Windows management instrumentation. I didn't enable that. It's still set to false. Cool. Now if I relook, everything would be there. It doesn't scroll. But that's the main one right there. Windows management instrumentation, or now
Windows Defender Remote Management.
but yeah, this one right here.
Windows Defender Fire.
You can also just type Windows Defender asterisk. So I don't think there's anything else that's Windows Defender. It's got a rule for it. So Windows Defender asterisk would work. The last one, the easiest thing for that would be to do just do a star and do WMI and then do a star. MI and then do a star again. Yeah, you had it right, WMI. And then do a star. Hit enter. Wildcard characters help out. Wild card characters, that's what the asterisk is, the star. So if it finds WMI anywhere in the word, it'll run on that. Okay, neat. So if I get net firewall rule, those firewalls are open for the stuff that we've specified so far. Cool, huh? Feel like a hacker? So now if I right click on server 3 and click on computer management, it no longer waits for about 30 seconds and then throws an error message that, hey, the RPC service is not operational or the firewall is blocking you. It now actually opens up computer management. And I can view event logs because we enabled the remote event viewer. Each one of these is a snap-in and it's a tool that connects to a different service and displays information about that service. The task scheduler, we enabled that. So now we can view and do a little bit more on server 3 by punching holes in the firewall, as they say. Yep. Might as well punch it. So isn't that neat? So we've done remote management on server 3. Let's also look at get Windows feature. What I want. Feature. Get dash Windows feature. Cool. So get Windows feature. We see that there's some square boxes. Some of them have blanks, some of them have X's and stuff in them. Let's look. I'm going to just demonstrate up here, but I don't want you to go to this. Let's look at adding roles and features. And let me show you on server 3. It also annoys me. It puts server 3 always in the middle. I have to sort it. I can't go past that without it being sorted. So as I go next, I want you to look here for, you see file server right there. Let's see if I can, see where it says file and storage services, and then there's file server, it's unchecked. Look here at the graphical tool. It's unchecked. Now I could graphically check and go next and blah and configure it here. Well, we don't want to do that. We want to be cool, right? So available or installed or available, blah, blah. So I want to install the file server role from PowerShell. The name is right here. If you highlight it with the mouse and hit enter on the keyboard, it will copy that into the clipboard. Neat little trick for the PowerShell command line. So highlight fs-file server, and then just simply press enter and it'll unhighlight. That's copied into the clipboard. And if you're looking for it, it's all the way at the top if you type get-Windows feature. So if you're looking to copy it, then yeah, run get Windows feature, scroll all the way to the very top and then start looking. Because notice you can see my command up here. So this files fs-file servers pretty close to the top. The role services are displayed first, the feature sets are displayed in the second half. Now I need to figure out how to enable that. I don't know if it's install or enable or something else.
Do we put a space between feature and FS?
No, we're not typing that. We just did get Windows feature and we copied the FS file server.
We're not gonna run it.
No, we're going to use another commandlet to either install or enable that. So I'm going to try first with enable Windows. There's enable Windows optional feature. I don't think that's it. Let's see if it's install Windows feature. This might be it. Install Windows feature dash name, and then I'll right click a mouse and it pasted the name of the feature I wanted to install, or you could type in fs-file server if you didn't highlight and copy it. And if I hit enter, hope I call it the spaghetti-o bar. It fills the bowl up with spaghettios. See, the little spaghettios. And it will install that feature set onto server 3. Exit code success. Restart needed? No. And if you hit the up arrow key to get feature set again, there will be scroll and scroll and scroll. There will be an X right there beside file server. If I was to rerun the graphical tool here, and look at what's installed, I'll see file server is grayed out and there's a checkbox, it's installed.
I don't have an Xbox file.
Let's check out the commands you've done. Full screen, remote control. Oh, you haven't hit enter again yet.
Huh?
You've got to hit enter. You've got to get Windows feature. You're still looking at the old data before you've installed it. So just hit enter right there. Now scroll up. So you're looking at the old output before you installed it. So it doesn't update visually until you pull the information again. I don't know if I took control.
You definitely did.
Okay, well now you have your mouse back. Wasn't that pretty cool?
Yeah.
Something else I can do right here, I'm going to highlight all the stuff from file server all the way down to work folders right there. And I'm going to hit enter to copy that. I'm going to paste it into a notepad file. There's an alternate way. Instead of redirecting it out to a file name and opening it, you can highlight, hit enter, paste it in the notepad. Now you've got another way to do stuff. We should be able to install multiple feature sets at the same time. So it was installed, right? Let me clear my screen. Install Windows feature. Name. And I'm pretty sure that I can comma separate these out.
How do you copy what you highlight again? Is it control enter?
No, just enter. Just hit the enter key. And then go to Notepad, and then you right click and paste it in Notepad. So I'm going to copy this. Or I could also in this Notepad file, go ahead and do like install Windows feature name. And then I could say, okay, I want this data deduplication to be installed. So I copy the name down and paste it, put a comma. I want file server resource manager, so I can copy that. The volume shadow copy agent. Copy that, put another comma and a Control V to paste that out there. And those are the three I want for now. Data deduplication, file server resource manager, and file server VSS or volume shadow copy agent service. We'll be configuring those later on in the semester. And we're just playing now with PowerShell. Some of the stuff you can do manually with it. So if I install Windows feature -name and those three, I could copy that. And if I was on a blank command line, if I right clicked, types it all out there. Hit enter. Should install those three feature sets. And we should get a table that three of them were installed successfully. And it says data deduplication, file server resource, and it ran out of room at the ... So there's more stuff there. And we're on server 3 doing this. Okay, I'm going to pause the recording. We're going to take a break. I'm going to close down my notepad, not save anything. We've looked at executing PowerShell commands directly at the command prompt, right? It's not normally what you do. So let's go ahead and exit. You have to exit twice. Normally you write scripts. I'll show you another thing that's at the command prompt and maybe some security stuff. So some sample scripts. Let me see if we can. Okay, so security issue that hackers have found. You see this code right here, right?
Yes.
So maybe you've gone along and you need to put some code in. It was on some website on how to fix something or install something. It's like, here's the PowerShell code, because there's not a graphical way to do it. Like removing the Windows 11 App Store apps that are locked out that you can't remove, but you can do it with PowerShell. It's things like that. So you're copying code using this, and you want to just go paste it right into PowerShell. But hackers have found a way that that copy button will copy malicious code instead of what's actually displayed to the screen. So it's always best to paste into Notepad before you paste into a PowerShell window, because it could be something malicious. Just a tip. Because if there's something that displays different than what you're seeing, it's probably something malicious added into the copy button.
I was just gonna say, how do we know it's malicious?
The biggest thing I'm learning from going to school is trust no one.
Yeah, trust no one, don't trust anything on the internet. And now these copies are no longer trustable because
I have trust issues. And worse.
okay, now let's move into what PowerShell is really good for. So we have one tool in here, PowerShell ISE. You can find it under the tools menu. You could also search for PowerShell in the magnifying glass. You will find PowerShell ISE, integrated scripting environment. So I want to show you this one tool built in to Windows. It doesn't start up with the script pane open. It starts it up with it minimized. So in the top right corner, you have to click the little down arrow to see the script pane. That's the tip on that tool. For now, I'm going to not really play with this too much. It is kind of cool. This has a nice big long listing of commandlets that it detected on the computer. So you're not Googling and trying to figure stuff out. So that is helpful that you can at least want to add, install, get something. What are all the get commands? And you can scroll and look at what's there. Let's go ahead and close this. It might be really useful for you to look through. And all these like get AD stuff, you won't see these at your home computer if you're looking at home, unless you've got the remote server administration tools installed with Active Directory commandlets and stuff. You'll see a shorter list. But I'm going to close this one out and close out all my windows. I'm going to launch the Visual Studio Code inside of Server One. Dark theme. There's only really two themes. You click the browse color themes, it says like Control T or Control K and bring up themes. The ones that say default in parentheses are the only ones you want to use. Otherwise, it'll mess up syntax highlighting of your code. There's only two that have default in parentheses. That's light plus and dark plus. Just a tip, I'd avoid any of the other color schemes because it makes it harder to spot coding errors, coding mistakes, because the colorization takes over the actual syntax of the code you're writing. Okay, so beyond that tip, let's create a new file. I'm just going to click new text file built in for right now. And I'm going to save the file as a PowerShell script file. So file saved for the first time, we'll ask you, where do you want to put it? I guess just in my documents folder for now. What type of file do you want to save it as? And I would find PowerShell in the drop-down list. And then I would give it a name, like example 1 or something. .ps1 is the file extension for PowerShell scripts. So you could have it like on all files or something and put .ps1. Just clicking save now, it'll auto put the .ps1 on the end. So why did my PowerShell not auto pop up? I don't know. I'm going to close the file and reopen it. Close all the stuff and reopen the file. File, open file. Because it should have popped up. I'm going to click on my extensions. Why does it say there's nothing installed? Must have been something with sysprep. A PowerShell module didn't carry over. Ryan says try Control J. Okay, Control J brought it up. Interesting. Thank you for that. So Control J brought up the PowerShell stuff. Let me test it out. I'm going to do some digging and see. There's only administrator. Somehow when we sysprepped it, it ripped out the PowerShell v6 file. And I think we deleted that off our desktop, didn't we? Okay. Do you remember how we got that? Not copy it there. See if this works. Paste. Make sure this is going to go. Desktop. Reinstall it. So there we go. We need that installed for everything to work properly. Okay, so you'll need a copy to your desktop. The V6 file. So we've done some tasks like this in the past. Like the first week, and I'm sure forgot all of it. But from your host computer, you opened up File Explorer window, and you went to my computer here, up here on the podium, and we copied the whole Visual Studio Code. We don't need to do that. We just need to copy the V6 file because Visual Studio Code's installed. The sysprep reset the plugins. So we just copy the V6 file, throw it on the desktop. And from within Visual Studio Code, use your Tetris block, the ellipse, and install from V6. Remember doing that from the first week.
I can't copy the file over to my.
Would you right-click copy and then right-click paste? You can't drag and drop. You actually have to copy and paste. And then wherever you paste it, you use the ellipse, install, browse to that location. Once it's installed, you can do something in your Visual Studio Code, like write host, quote, hello world, do Control F5. And your terminal at the bottom should print out on a line all by itself, hello world. That way you know the extension is installed correctly and it is able to process the PowerShell code.
Where are we?
So the V6 file, you paste that onto the desktop of server one.
The BB 106.
Yeah, it's full screen. So have you copied it?
Yeah.
Let me see. So from here, where's your File Explorer window? That one. Okay, so I'm on your computer, right?
Yeah.
Not on mine. So yeah, that's copying that, pasting it. Go and install from V6. Desktop, install. So Control F5. It's supposed to read and run and say hello right down there.
So that's PowerShell on the bottom, I think.
Yes,
So the top pane is input and the bottom pane is output.
yes. Okay, has everybody got that working now? It looks like it, glancing at everybody's screen. And you can hit the little Tetris block to get more space on your screen to have the whole window open to us. Let me see if I can zoom in. Yep, I can zoom in some. That a little easier for you to read? No? So, right host, hello world. That's the first thing you ever do in any coding language in the book. Print something to the screen. Get it to run, right? Next thing they probably teach is variables. So creating a variable. My brain went blank on exactly how to create a variable. Do I need to put $sign in front? Let me go double check some things real quick. Where's some PowerShell code? What's this look like? Yeah, I do have to, okay. You're a little confused thinking of Python versus PowerShell and other coding languages. So to create a variable, you put in a $sign followed with some word. It's not a keyword or anything. Why don't we just use the letter A? And you can set that equal to something. Why don't we set it equal to Bob? Then we create another variable called B, and we can set that equal to get date. So we have one variable, we've statically assigned the letters Bob, B-O-B into it. Another one is a variable, and every time that the script would run, it would get the current date. So it would always be up to date.
Is that a B or an A?
B. Variable should be pretty much just all letters. You can, I think they have to start with the letter. They can have numbers in them. Like B1 would work, but normally you just want to use letters for variable names. We can write to the host. Use double quotation marks and go, hey, $sign A. It is $sign B. And if we control F5, it should run it. And at the bottom of the screen, we'll say, hey, Bob, it is 1/25/2023, 11:24, 11 milliseconds.
Variables in PowerShell insensitive or sensitive? Because
They're not case sensitive. We can double check it just to make sure. Lowercase b, control F5. Not milliseconds, seconds. Okay, went a little too crazy on time there.
Control. Oh, that's a new button. Do it again. Do it.
Mine didn't do anything. It didn't do the hey Bob.
Let's check out your screen. You did Control F5 on the keyboard. Make sure you clicked up top. Yeah, there you go.
What was the control F5 do?
It tells it to run the script. So it's a little bit different than typing directly at the command line and pressing enter. Here we're writing out a text file, and then we got to tell it when to run.
Control F5.
Let's go ahead and improve our example a little bit. It's always better to clear host at the very beginning. So let's add a new line 1 at the top with the command clear. Clear works by itself, but watch, if I just type clear and press enter, it says, hey, no problem. Hey, I got an idea for you. Replace it with clear host. If you read the problems tab at the bottom, it says, there's an alias. You shouldn't be using aliases, even though it's a built-in alias. It's like, you shouldn't be using alias. You type it all the way out. That's it for you. Replace it with clear host. There you go. We fixed it for you. Avoid aliases. It's just a PowerShell thing. So Visual Studio Code etiquette, maybe. So now if I go back to terminal and I do a Control F5, what's it look like this time? It should be a little bit cleaner when your script runs. Without the clear host, it shows every command that's being executed, and then it shows the output, and that can be a little bit cumbersome to look at. So clearing the host is cool. Most PowerShell scripts are not designed to output anything to the screen anyway. They're just do your thing in the background. I don't care what it looks like. I just need the task to be done. And they're normally run as scheduled tasks, so nobody's there looking at what's happening. Except the person that originally coded it would need to know that it was working correctly. So some of you may not have looked at any coding language ever in the past and never heard of variables. This could be painful to try to learn. But I hope you have a concept, or maybe at least a pre-concept at some point in time in history. But if not, that's a variable is just a placeholder in RAM to store data. And we've got two different types up here, one that's static. Bob's never going to change unless I manually change it. And get date's going to change every second. It's going to be new when the script is run. So we could run the script every single second, and $B would change every single second.
Wait,
Every time it ran.
you can set a task in task scheduler. And then you can set variables all the way to the alphabet. About like different stuff to be like, hey,
Yeah.
Big Bob, it's 10 o'clock time to get your lunch. Put it in the microwave for 1:30. Oh,
That's
this is
exciting.
fun. Oh, yeah.
Don's geeking out over here. Somebody needs to lock him in a room by himself.
Do it.
He doesn't need to be exposed to the public. Wasn't that cool? So what else do we want to do?
Everything.
Let's create another file
So
and let's save it as an example 2. Don't forget to change the type to PowerShell. Now we'll have 2 tabs at the top. We'll have example 1, save this PowerShell, and example 2, save this PowerShell. I just new file, saved it as a PowerShell as example 2.
thank you, Dan. All wrong with it.
I'm going to go ahead and do a clear host at the top. And now I'm going to get all the users out of Active Directory. So I'm going to get as the verb. Remember we got PC info or computer info before? Get net firewall rule. Well, if I want to get all the Active Directory users, I'm going to use the verb get. I'm going to use the noun AD user.
It's clear house like one thing that like. You can put basically at the top of all of them.
Yep, I do. Get Active Directory user. Now, just because that I've done PowerShell and know 2 or 3 of the commands and know the quirks of this command, you have to have a filter switch. Otherwise, it will prompt you to answer the filter option. So minus filter is required for this command to work. And I'll just answer with ASCII code 42, which is, the answer to everything. Which is also asterisk, the symbol. You notice the help screen is on up here as up top to get AD user and put a dash filter. If you're looking at the help screen, most of the stuff is inside of hard brackets. But the dash filter and the string there, represented by the greater than string less than, is not in hard brackets. That means it's required to be answered. Anything in hard brackets is optional. You don't have to put it for the command to execute, but dash filter has to be typed. You should have learned that in operating systems class, bringing up the manual page on things and looking at the syntax. That was in Linux, that anything within hard brackets was optional, but if it wasn't in hard brackets, you had to type or fill in that option. So that was a quick way to visually see that, yes, I require dash filter with the get AD user. Some commands you can just use just a command like clear dash host. You don't have to add anything to it. Okay, control F5. Will show us all the user accounts, which there happen to be 3. One of them is administrator. Another one is some type of built-in account that Microsoft put for their engineers to be able to log in as that and do something. I don't know what they can do with that account, but it's there. Some things to note, the SID. You see the SID? That's interesting. SID. SID is interesting.
Yes.
I'm gonna take a break. Google. Google, what, SID ends in 500. Figure out what that means.
Yeah, really, so you- that whole script, and then like sitting in the canvas, you know. All my. I used to do it, it's 8:15. I hope you have to do it, let's see, this.
Just automate certain tasks.
Uh,
Those are just-
yeah,
Thought about it in the context of like, use when we do it for people that we figure this out, like, why people don't do this? Beautiful,
very much.
good time.
So the SID. There's several dashes in it. They represent like the forest and the tree and the domain. And then the ID, if you remember the root accounts in operating system, it was always 0. So you always knew what root was. You just, what ID number, you're always looking for ID number 0 to hack into because you get root. The administrator counts always ends in 500. Doesn't matter what domain or anything, the numbers in front would be different, but 500 is going to be the administrator account. Way back when I started teaching Microsoft Server before Active Directory even, was this carried over, you know, from before even Active Directory existed. They had domain, but they didn't have it where it'd be worldwide free type thing. It was still 500. Microsoft recommended that you rename the administrator account and then create a regular user called administrator. Keep people from finding the admin accounts and hacking in, that they would be stuck. So that was all in their documentation. Of course, no hackers can read Microsoft documentation and they know what the industry standard is going to be. And they're a little bit smarter than Microsoft security people at the time. They found that all administrator accounts end in 500. So instead of looking for the name, they would just look at the SID 500 and attack that account. And it didn't matter what the name was. So that made it easy as you want admin. Really, hackers today aren't looking for the administrator account because it's not the same equivalency of root. It's not 0, it's 500 at the end. So they're looking for the 0 account, the root account, that system. You can't log in a system. Microsoft locks that out. But if you'll notice in Task Manager, most of the kernel code do that. Most of the kernel code will run as a system user. So that's the same as root. Microsoft doesn't allow you to log in as the root account.
So like the same. One book user that would handle BIOS. Or is that a different?
BIOS is firmware level. It's firmware is the lowest level you can go. It's lower than the OS. It's really dangerous if you hack BIOS level stuff, because then the OS can't, it loads in RAM before the bootstrap of the OS. So you can't you can't fight that really,
if you're able to
because the hardware can hide the virus from any part of the operating system, and your antivirus and stuff can't get it because it's loaded before.
and what you're saying. I think it's designed for where you can't manipulate things as system. But if you would,
It's like in security class, yeah, we like break into Windows or something, game system, and then we run everything as system.
okay,
Or you can dump like the user account hash out and then go throw it in a rainbow table and see if we can find the passwords and stuff like that. The users. SQL injection. All right. That's the top little bit about the users. Let's do dash properties. And space. I'll put an asterisk there. Before I run it, I want everybody to go ahead and go open up your server manager. So go ahead and switch off of your Visual Studio Code. Go to Server Manager. I'm going to go ahead and run Active Directory users and computers. And let's look under the users container. And double click administrator. There's a lot more fields here than's being displayed on the screen when we did get 80 user. A whole lot more stuff. So it only showed like the top 8 or 10 things. That's what the dash properties star is going to do. It says, I want to see all these fields for each user. But before we get out of here, go to the account tab. So we're going to run into the problem of the password expiring in 42 days. Again, ask your character 72, the answer in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie, 42. So the Microsoft dude that coded the default password expiration, he was a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fan, had to be. It's the only reason he would have picked 42. So, like, what's the answer? Put 42. Okay. User can't change password. Password never expires for the administrator account. We don't want that changing because you have to change the password if it gets to the expiration. Then it's not past 1, 2, 3, 4 anymore. And if you don't tell me that when we do the skills final and you leave the room after you're done, and I can't log in as administrator because you changed the password because it expired on you and causes problems. So we'll stop that right there while we're looking at it. Okay, we can okay that and close everything. And we can now run our new get 80 user with the properties set to asterisk. We'll do a control F5 and there'll be slightly more information on the screen about the users. Isn't that neat? You can tell when the account was created, when it was last, something was changed on it. Last time the password was set. The last few times the information was propagated to other domain controllers. There's all kind of stuff. Information overload, right?
like this.
Something else that becomes important is the distinguished name. If you find a distinguished name, being able to type stuff out like that is important with the Next Up 500 standard directory account database. It's normally low-level troubleshooting, disaster recovery stuff. Is knowing how to type full stuff all the way out, but pretty advanced when you need to use that. It does exist. I just kind of pointing out that is one part in here. The SID, that 500 in, if you're a hacker, that's kind of important. Hopefully you're not going to be black hats breaking things.
Never.
The SAM account name is critical to know. That's the login. So scripting stuff, automating things on user accounts, you want to operate on the SAM account name because it would be unique and it'd be the login for that person. We had a student that he had to go make some type of change in the field for all the student accounts. So I don't know why they didn't. Whoever gave him that job must have not have thought of anything else for him to do that summer. They didn't trust him with anything else, but they gave him Active Directory rights to do. I don't know. It was real weird, but he told me what he did all summer long, that he would, you know, all 6,000 student accounts across the different semesters. Start at the top, double click one, go to somewhere and type something in and go to the next one and do it, and go to the next one and do it. He spent 2 months doing that, got through all the accounts. I was like, what? Why? We can use PowerShell and do that in about 4 or 5 lines. And so we did that in class. Like, this is all you had to do. And it would have done that on all of them, using some variables and stuff. Yeah, I was amazed at what they had him do. And he was, you know, like a gut punch, thinking that's all I had to do. Like, yeah, you just type that and just click play. In 2 minutes, it would have been done, all 6,000 of them. Yeah. So we're getting close to lunchtime. I'll show you one of the things we'll be doing with PowerShell. We'll be creating some user accounts and groups manually, but then as we get a little bit further in and learn a little more on PowerShell, I have all these users and all their passwords and phone numbers and addresses and stuff like that, and whether they're supposed to be enabled or disabled. And we're not going to manually go through all 100 and type in all of the information on all of them. We'll use PowerShell and say, hey, grab all this and just create the accounts, and okay, we're done. There's lots of different tools for importing stuff, but we'll specifically use PowerShell just to learn extra loops and things. There's a DOS executable that would probably import it a lot faster than what we would type, but we want to learn PowerShell. So, and that's what we do for here on campus, importing people. Well, let's go to lunch. Friday, we're probably going to take the day and maybe just do test out on Friday. Give you all time to make sure you get caught up.